Yeah,
Yeah.
that only took a year. I'm here with Nathan Martin. I'm Fish Krakowski. This is the final episode of Mando lore this year, and about this we are very sad. We're here to talk about the mind-blowing 16th chapter, The Rescue. Man, what a rescue. Nathan, go
Yeah.
ahead, because I'll babble on forever later. But let's just say that you might want to not watch this if, like, you're worried about, like, spoilers about anything. So
Fish brought props. So many props.
propped up.
What can I say? This was fantastic. This was just a great season of Star Wars, and the first season was such a setup. The second season has been so very full of just so much story, and really, really getting all the right just beats and hits, and just everything paid off that was set up. There was really nothing left. Like, the dinner plate was empty by the end of this. Luke Skywalker shows up and, like, just takes out, I don't know how many Death Troopers there were supposed to be, but it looked like initially only 12. And then when Luke Skywalker showed up, there was like 30. So that was weird, but I'm not complaining. Yeah. He definitely got his Rogue One Vader hallway moment. He just gets to go through and he uses the Force. And at first, when he first pulled up his hood, I was like, oh, they got an actor who kind of looks like young Mark Hamill. And no, they did the CG face thing, which whatever. It served its purpose. It looked fine.
Are you reacting to the internet? Is the internet grouchy? I don't look at the internet.
I didn't look at. The general reaction is mostly just holy Luke Skywalker. Oh, I got a sense of that.
Sorry, just supplied you with that a second.
Is everyone was just excited to see Luke Skywalker. No one was really complaining too much about the CG face. I think we've all just kind of gotten used to it. It's like, yeah, CG face, whatever.
Okay, let's not talk about the trolls. Let's keep going. Yeah. So what really got you? Like, what was the moment in this episode where you knew you were watching something really wonderful?
As soon as they got on the ship, like, as soon as, like, the bar fight was kind of fun, just to sort of set up the whole Boba, you're not really a Mandalorian kind of thing. But they full on crash an Imperial, like, they crash it into the ship, and it just goes, it's dialed to 9 the entire way. I love the fact that Mando doesn't, like, because they're supposed to be the distraction, and he's like off stealth, and then he's actually doing the stealth. He's like, oh, I'm hiding behind here. And it worked all the way up until the confrontation with Moff Gideon, which I love the fact that right before that scene happens, so, like, if you find the dark saber, the only thing that can't penetrate the dark saber is pure. Why am I blanking? Beskar, thank you. I'm blanking on names already. My brain is just fried. And it was just that thing of, like, and Moff Gideon playing that so perfectly, like, just a sleazy kind of, like, oh, well, we can be friends and well, not friends, but, like, here's a way to get out of this. And just the way that his character was written was so good. And Cara Dune, because once again, the Imperial has to try to kill himself, and Cara Dune just like, bah, bah, and then it's just like, and then I won't lie, like, and then having to see Grogu say goodbye to Jin, it was just like, and you got to see his face, and my only real thing was I didn't quite understand the whole. So did Grogu not want to go with Luke at the end until R2 showed up and said something to him?
No, it's basically like Luke talks to Din about that. He's basically like, he doesn't want to go with you, and then Luke's like, he's waiting for you to let him go, give him permission or whatever. So at that point, and then R2 was just, I thought R2 was a little clunkily deployed. He seemed like it's like the regular guy who's controlling the robot didn't quite work. Like he comes in and he's sort of looking up, and it's just like, you think he would come in kind of looking down, but whatever. They just wanted us to kind of that's where the extra 15 minutes came from in a lot of ways, is like lingering on these expensive CGI shots of Luke and seeing R2 again and that kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, I remember, so I thought it was good. I'm like, okay, this is kind of going as I thought the opening on the Tidarium kind of shuttle was really awesome. Guy blows away his friend, and Cara Dune is set up. She has the 3 best lines in this episode. Like, he's talking about the Death Star, that guy, and she goes, "Which one?" He's like, "You think you're funny," and it's like, well, that was actually pretty funny. And then she goes, "Oh, great, an objective opinion." Right, like, that was really funny. And then at the end, like, and I mean, this is the moment where I have to say, like, she goes like, "One X-wing, great, we're saved." And I look at that X-wing going in, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, the screen's I can't see the screen anymore, and it's because I'm like crying. Because
really?
There it is. I'm like, well, if you're sending one X-wing in, there's only one person who's gonna like show up in one X-wing. And that whole scene I had to watch twice because I really was just crying. I was just like, and I don't know why, because it's like, we're used to Luke. We've seen where Luke ends up and everything, but that's like that final Lego piece really clicking in, and it's like Return of the Jedi, this. And so we get to see Luke Skywalker as a fully trained Jedi. And as you mentioned, the Rogue One hallway where he's almost kind of, he is very much the Luke of Return of the Jedi, because he's just kind of like boredly dispensing. He's like, okay, I'll chop this guy at the feet, I'll cut this guy in half, I'll like crush this guy and then stab him in the neck. And he's just like, and then at the end he just like crushes that one guy. And it is interesting if you look at the shot per shot with the Rogue One. It's just like they clearly knew what they were doing here, but also the way they built that up. And I need to say this every episode, but this episode in particular, like Ludwig Göransson, the poor guy, like it went from, like, with the robots, it was like, front 242 Nine Inch Nails industrial, to the end credits music, which was like Bach Göransson, like it was like this chamber music, and I was just so moved by all that. But one of my favorite moments was just as he's holding Grogu, Din's holding Grogu, and then they just stop all the music. And it's just this totally quiet moment, and you're like, he's going to take his helmet off, and then he just doesn't care anymore. He's just like, so he's had kind of his journey in a certain way, and I'm kind of like, what would you do with a 3rd season? Like,
I mean, speculatively, I would say that you'd probably go like Mando. Jin said that he would help her with they do set up the whole Darksaber thing. They still want to go save Mandalore. So that could be somewhere where they go. The post-credit sequence, clearly Boba Fett is not going with them on their journey. He's got his own thing he's going on. But as sad as it is to say, I think that's the last we're ever going to see of Grogu.
I would assume we'll get him here and there. Like, they're going to kind of Marvel Universe bring him in here and there. But yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see on that. Obviously, they built this story out of nothing. They built this story out of the fact that I think they were hoping to do a Boba Fett movie, and then Favreau sort of shows up and he's like, "How about this way better idea?" And so now we're sort of reset at the point where it's just like, okay, well, now we can have a new Fett thing, like the Book of Boba Fett, whatever that is, if it's a movie or if it's a series, we'll find out. I also love that Disney the other day like didn't mention that they actually had like a 10th thing. Just like, oh my God. So they're feeling generous on their part, but of course this is all just, what they're good at is marketing. There's also one thing I don't want to forget about. There's just this one shot in the thing, and of course my prop is not working properly here. There we go. And so it's just like, this shot was so awesome. Like just Slave One, and you just get to like look at it, and just like so beautiful. Here's Slave One. I was talking the other day, remember we were excited about the kind of gyroscopic flippers, whatever you call it. Anyway, love the toys. That's how I got into it. I don't know, man. Like this one was so beautiful. Peyton Reed directed it. Did an okay job. I kept forgetting to mention this about a million times. One of these days, I want to watch an episode of this, and it's just like directed by George Lucas. Like, get Lucas in, man. Like I don't know what he's doing, but like if you're out there, I'm sure you're watching our Northern Mandalorian review program. But I mean, like like I would just love to see that happen again. He's great at action sequences, and honestly, we're here talking about all of this because of him.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know if he'd even want to come back. I mean, I think the last time I saw him do anything is he was on set for the final season of Game of Thrones, just kind of checking everything out and stuff like that. I think
he showed up on. Like he showed up. He was him and there's photos of him and Favreau hanging out.
Oh yeah.
And he also showed up. He also showed up in Rogue One. Like he was like being mean. And he was like trying to pull Opie's hat off. What Ron Howard? Opie. That's where I go. I'm 100 years old.
You go Opie. Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think George is excited. I think what excites George, and I'm just pulling this out of my butt because I don't actually know, but I think what honestly excites George is
that's what excites George
is that seeing people play in the world that he created, but not always using his characters. I think how he felt about the sequel trilogy is sort of like, okay. I think he gets more out of like, oh, I see what you're doing. Like, I think that's what he really, really probably likes and enjoys out of is all the side stuff, like the animated shows and kind of like expanding on the lore. I think that's what, I mean, if I was in his position, that's what I would find entertaining. It's like, oh, you took this little thing and you've created like this big thing. I think that is far more exciting and it like to me, if I was in that creative position. But coming back to helm, I'd be, in my own opinion, I'd be like, nah, you know what? You guys play. I like to visit. You guys play. I'm going to sit back and watch.
Well, probably, and not to be mean to George Lucas, who I love, but it would be probably a lot of scenes like the prequels where people are just sort of standing in hallways like in a so, but moving on from that, I just love the way this episode once again kind of made Return of the Jedi better. Like, and it so many things from Jedi, and it just reminds, it's sort of like, the Emperor, I talked about this before when we were talking about The Last Jedi, how that sort of fulfilled Palpatine's prophecy about Luke. Because when you're watching Return of the Jedi, you're feeling like the Emperor is going, turn to the dark side. And you're like, well, why would Luke do that? He doesn't do that kind of thing. There's nothing about him that makes you feel like he had a dream once, right? Like but he's standing over Kylo Ren with a lightsaber there. You're like, oh, so Palpatine's sensing this. And watching Luke in that fight, like this, it's kind of playing the same trick again, but it's kind of like, in Rogue One, we saw the real Darth Vader killing and murdering.
Yeah.
And in this one, Luke is not holding back. He's just kind of toying. And, I don't want to go back to that again, but I was so excited by the fact that this is just 5 years after Return of the Jedi. And, an episode earlier, we have an Imperial talking about how the New Republic is a shambles and things aren't very well and everything. And here you see someone who's kind of in the hierarchy of that. So it's all very complicated, especially when you think about him promising Din Djarin that he's going to protect Grogu with his life. And it's like, where does that all end up in the sequel trilogy where we don't have Grogu, and Luke has run away and so there's more story to tell there. Certainly, maybe Grogu's in that big field of spaceships at the end of Rise of Skywalker or something. Like maybe he walks away from all this like Luke, who knows, right? But it's just
right.
Like there is something kind of tragic about, think about it, like, the Mando is like spent a long time trying to get him to a Jedi so that he could be trained and protect and save him. But we still know how things turn out by the sequel trilogy. So it's just, it's a bummer still. It's sad still. So, I mean, I kept talking about having kind of an Empire Strikes Back ending. This wasn't that unless you really step back and kind of think about it, where it's just like, oh yeah, sad times are ahead.
Yeah.
that saloon fight too, I don't want to forget about that too. Like that was some interesting kind of world building stuff, like where they, Bo-Katan's kind of going to, Boba Fett, like, that you're a disgrace to that armor, and then her sidekick goes, I didn't know sidekicks could talk, kind of thing, and he makes fun of them. They have a little dumb fight, and but I love all that tension. And I said last episode that I didn't think that they could resist bringing all the Mandos together, and
and you were right.
I did think that Luke was going to show up in this too, but it still felt fresh, and the way all that played out, the way it was directed with Luke, like, man, it was just heavy and beautiful. So
yeah, it was. I'm honestly curious to know how my wife is going to react, because she's fallen in love with this show, and I know that her seeing Mando give Grogu away, she's going to be crying.
Yeah.
Did you? She's not going to like that ending at all.
Yeah. Lots of tears. Speaking of which, isn't it something that, like, we lost David Prowse? We were talking about that last week, and then it was so weird. I was like, that Slave One I just brought up, the toy. Like, I was down in the basement storage room. I had to go drive and get it, and then the next day, like, Jeremy Bullock dies. Like, it's
I know.
So the guy that played Boba Fett originally died too, and it's just like, it just obviously, Underground River, whatever. It's like, there's no meaning to any of this. It's not a triple rainbow or anything, but it's just like, it just seemed kind of Boba Fett was so in the public consciousness, and then for the actual actor, I suppose if you're going to die, like, that's not a bad time, because at least people are going to kind of remember what you did. And it was interesting looking back on his career, and he was like in old episodes of Doctor Who and all this, but it's just like, again, down to like name the guys that are in the Mando suit usually. Like, we just don't know them, and it's just kind of funny. I don't know. We're very looking forward to reviewing We Don't Know What. like what are we gonna, we don't know which show is coming out. We don't know if it's, because we've decided that if there's a Lando show, we're gonna have a show called Lando More. Are you into
Lando
that?
More?
Yeah. So it's like, just to play off this. And I don't know. Oh, did you see, he said Bib Fortuna, by the way, like, that was really awesome. Like, Bib Fortuna sitting on Jabba's throne, right?
On his dais.
And he's obviously had a few space stakes in the meantime. But did you see, he actually said McClurky? Like, he did. He goes, so it's just like, okay, we know. So you want to explain that, or like what it's just basically added. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's that weird, they couldn't help but muck with that Han Solo shooting Greedo scene. And when Disney Plus was released, all their 4K releases, because remember way back in the day, Lucas wanted to 3Dify the entire series, and they released episode 1, which me and my dad went to the theater to watch, which was really fun, actually. And then I don't know if it was because it just didn't do well or whatnot. So they had tinkered with it again. And then right before Solo shoots, Greedo now says McClunky.
Yeah, that's it. I kind of love the subtle jabs, right? Like, it felt like The Last Jedi was kind of a subtle jab at Force Awakens, and it's interesting that there's these conversations happening with all this stuff. So I'm into it. Like, the world is written by many people, so why not do that?
It was, when I heard it, I was like, that's pretty funny. I mean, as any Star Wars fan, I live for the day that we could actually just get the original edits and the re-released edits all in one glorious 4K box set. But I remember what was it? 3 years ago, I showed the original trilogy to my sister-in-law and brother-in-law, who had never seen them ever before.
Mm-hmm.
They still work. Even though I've the only versions of them that I have is the mucked around with version, it still completely worked. Watching those movies for the first time through someone else's eyes, they just loved the hell out of it. So that's what, at the end of the day, that's what is supposed to happen. I don't have to sit there and tell them like, yeah, okay, but like in the original version, because they don't care. It doesn't matter. The only people who care are the people who saw the original thing. the knowledge that the stories still work and still sail within, like, and we're talking people who are in their mid 30s. These aren't like, they're not super young or anything like that. Well, not super old either, but
someone's gonna get a letter.
It's one of those things where, like, we started showing them the Mandalorian show as well, and it hooks. Like, the good storytelling just works.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter anything else, and this is good storytelling.
And this is the faith I have. And I mean, I was talking to my friend Curtis, and we were basically noting that what we got in 2 seasons of The Mandalorian in terms of kind of like time stamp is basically another trilogy.
Yeah.
So that essentially it's, you know, like a roughly, you know, 9-10 hours kind of thing. And that's how much a trilogy used to be. And so, you know, and the taste in my mouth from it is like, I'm just so happy still.
Yeah.
And I think we've been very lucky, and I mean, all these people are going to have all these different entry points. For so many people, this is going to be the first Star Wars they've ever seen, and what an interesting way to see that. And yeah, I don't know if we have much more to say. Like, it has been a real pleasure doing these with you. Like, this has been kind of like the highlight of my week quite often, and I just and I also want to thank I'm stunned that I can say thank you to the thousands and thousands of people that watch this dumb thing where we're just going on gibberish about, like, oh well, did you notice Kermit the Frog was in that one episode? It's just like, and again, the showmakers, Favreau, Filoni, everybody, and all the directors and the writers. I mean, like, man, oh man, like the character, like the Marshal and the frog passenger, and like Grogu eating the eggs and Dark Troopers and everything. I mean, like, what a wild season. And I just, like, I love it, man. I can't get enough. So I can't wait.
I can't wait to see what they do next. It'll be a whole year, so me and you'll have to try to think of something.
I'm gonna try and like grow some, like, some of those sort of like sacks on the side of my head, like Bib Fortuna, and I'll just be sitting here with my shirt off. It's gonna be really good. You're gonna love it. Well, anyway, I do have one last treat. So,
one last treat.
Yeah. So thanks for watching, and hold on here.
Uh-oh. This is the way.
This is the one.